The fact of the matter is that China is generating a worldwide food catastrophe and is starving the world. But how is China causing world hunger? Does anything need to be done about it? If these are the inquiries on your mind, then pay attention. How is China responsible for global food shortages? You have seen and experienced things in your life that are similar to what I'm about to tell you today. You've already noticed how China's activities have affected you, but perhaps you lacked the background knowledge to recognize that China was responsible for this. When was the last time you went to the grocery shop and noticed that everything has increased in price? Yes, the world is experiencing that effect. You can see that China has started to stockpile food as part of its stringent domestic policies. China is storing grains and other items worth millions of metric tons. China currently has about 69% of the world's reserves of maize, 60% of the reserves of rice, and 51% of the reserves of wheat. You will observe that from 2020 to 2021, China increased its imports of goods like rice, which it is a net exporter of, from 1.2 million metric tons to 3.2 million metric tons. In addition to the nation's decrease in grain exports, it represents an increase of 2 million tons. China's grain reserves will inevitably keep going as a result. An excellent illustration of that is the 310 silos along the Dalian coastline. Then it becomes clear that we are discussing a global supply. It's easy to see how significant these statistics are. It is absurd that a nation that provides just approximately 20% of the world's population holds, on average, 55% of the grain produced worldwide, as a result of the drop in grain prices on the global market. Several nations are experiencing shortages. For those who do obtain the grain, it comes with a price, a substantial one, as uncontrollably high food prices. This is the cost of the increase in the price of grain commodities. Moreover, all of the crop's byproducts are growing more expensive as the grain itself increases in price. But what is driving this stockpiling, and is there a strategy at work? Or is this just a case of luck or bad timing? I will let you know one thing. It's a comprehensive 10-year plan. Let's examine these specifics, shall we? Why is China stockpiling food? China has the greatest population in the entire planet. Therefore, the government has a large number of mouths to feed, even while it isn't a concern right now. Life hasn't always been rosy. The nation has previously suffered immensely under failed policies like those of Mao Zedong during the Great Leap Forward. Tens of millions of Chinese people perished from famine during Mao's dictatorship, preserving some of the worst human rights violations in history. According to some reports, the Chinese even consumed the flesh of the dead to stay alive. Even still, such a tragedy is unthinkable in the modern world. The Chinese Communist Party has done all within its power to ensure that this incident not only vanishes from people's memories but also that it never occurs again. The real reason for all of this hoarding is just a bit of security and insurance. The Chinese government is hurrying to purchase millions of tons of grains, much to how Americans scrambled to acquire toilet paper at the height of the flu. This has inspired various proverbs, like those of President Xi Jinping, who has stressed the need for the people to always hold their own rice bowl firmly in their hands. China's concerns are not entirely theoretical either. There are numerous deeply ingrained realities on the subject. For instance, small conflicts and disagreements between China and Australia and Canada have led to concerns among Chinese authorities about the possibility of a future grain supply cutoff, such as the propensity of the global community to cut back on exports to a country as a form of international punishment. The same scenario happened in China earlier under the Donald Trump administration when soybean imports from America plummeted during the height of the trade war, and China was forced to fend for itself by outsourcing to other countries. China is working to improve the situation, which includes this. China wants to be in a position where its reserves would be sufficient to see it through any crisis. In essence, we observe that the globe suffers when China is concerned about food. You might wonder, though, how bad the suffering is. Let's find out then. Let's examine the broad impacts that China's food stockpiling is having on the world food market, both directly and indirectly. The UN Food and Agriculture Association claim that in March of this year, prices of food commodities worldwide reach an all-time high. The FAO Food Price Index tracks the monthly change in a basket of food commodities prices around the globe. Additionally, the results for March of this year represents the biggest price peaks in the index's three-decade history. This follows months and months of constant growth. The cost of numerous items including wheat, other grains, meat, and oils has skyrocketed. Even comparing year over year revealed that the index prices had climbed by a third since March of 2021. A 30% price increase is nothing to laugh about when we remember that we are talking about food. Overall, the UN's Food Price Index revealed that prices are currently 75% higher than pre-pandemic levels, according to RBC Wealth Management's Managing Director and Health and Head of the Investment Strategy, Frederick Carrier. Let's explore what this actually means. Sometimes the reality of the issue cannot be properly expressed by numbers alone. When you look at the FAO Cereal Price Index, you can see that it increased by 2.2% from April to an average of 173.4 points in May, which is up from its May 2021 value by as much as 29.7%. This indicates that grain prices have been rising globally, most likely as a result of China's activities. I already mentioned how much of the world's grains is being stored in China. This indicates that there is increased demand for whatever grain that is still available on the world market. Consequently, nations purchased it at inflated cost. Worryingly, because many nations import grain at inflated prices, they also sell it to their own citizens at inflated rates. It's a sad reality that their folks sometimes struggle with or occasionally cannot even afford these prices. Take a look of how the price of wheat increased for a fourth straight month in May, rising 5.6% to an average of 56.2% more than their value from the previous year and only 11% below the record high set in March 2008. An export ban declared by India in reaction to worries about crop conditions in several major exporting countries, as well as a decline in exports from China, caused a sharp rise in wheat prices. India is one of those nations that can export, but it is currently playing defense and refusing to do so in order to safeguard its own interest. In essence, China's strategy is having an impact on the world and causing countries to close their doors by restricting exports. This has a significant impact on the global food balance. Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya are a few of the nations that would suffer the most because of the deadly confluence of violence and climate change in the Horn of Africa. Somalia and Ethiopia are not benefiting much from the rising food cost. This is due to the fact that both countries, along with Kenya, are experiencing their worst drought in 40 years. By the end of the year, the drought might lead 20 million people in the area to be hungry, the World Food Program warned. Usually, one would anticipate that that these nations will import what they require from the international market. But regrettably, this is not taking place. The countries are having trouble feeding their inhabitants due to a lack of supply and high pricing, and those consequences are painful. Consider this as an example. Ethiopia and Somalia are currently listed in the highest alert category by the UN, the Integrated Phase Classification's fifth phase, where it is known or anticipated that some populations will die of famine. According to UN estimates, more than 80,000 Somalians may experience similar conditions this year. Malnutrition is already killing children, and urgent medical care is required for over 2 million people in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia. The cost of therapeutic food, which the UN Children's Fund uses to treat children with severe acute malnutrition, is predicted to increase by 16% globally over the next 6 months, UNICEF has warned. But the index's rising prices have an impact on countries in ways other than those that directly contribute to hunger and starvation. No, it can also do so inadvertently. Other nations like Egypt rely on this for their own political existence. Worries center on the cost for the government to sustain social safety net programs and prevent any type of political instability. And the largest importer of wheat in the world, one of the economic problems that led to the start of the 2011 Arab Spring revolutions was the rise in food costs. The bread and other good price rises in Egypt in the 1970s cost pricings that forced the government to swiftly change course. In the actual world, hunger feeds violence and war causes hunger. The administration has searched for new wheat suppliers in an effort to quell unrest, and it has instructed Egyptian farmers to begin harvesting their wheat earlier than usual. Turkey requested funding the Saudi Arabia and the IMF to assist in funding its bread subsidies, according to the Wall Street Journal. In order to save spending, the government has maintained bread subsidies while tightening qualifying requirements. According to the magazine, it has also placed restrictions on the prices that sellers can charge for baladi bread that is not subsidized. As a result, the cost of increased global wheat prices is primarily felt by bakeries and bread vendors. All of this is the sobering reality caused by circumstances relating to food, prominent among them the choice made by one nation to become a food hoarder. One can barely deny China's role in this disaster, even when other reasons like the Ukraine war are taken into account. We can clearly see that China is stockpiling a lot of grain because the Chinese Communist Party is afraid of what happened in the past. This makes the scarce amount of grain still available, including replacement goods, highly expensive. This makes the scarce amount of grain still available, including replacement goods, highly expensive. The year-over-year price changes have been enormous, as I have perfectly explained throughout the film, and only time will tell if the rises will persist. For our discussion, what have you learned? Please let me know by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe to Wealth-ology for more videos like this. Thank you for stopping by to watch. See you in our next video.